Are the disciples and Jim Jones in the same boat? All right. So if you're too young to know who Jim Jones is and the Jonestown Massacre, you can Google it. A cult leader who led a lot of people to their death. Now, I've just finished the series on the resurrection, and in many of those videos, I mentioned that the disciples they died for their beliefs, and people don't knowingly die for a lie. And so somebody challenged me in one of my videos and said, that's false because people die for a lie all the time. Look at the cults. Well, that person is missing a key important difference. People in cults, yes, they do die for something that is false that they believe is true. But that's the key point. The followers of Jim Jones, they didn't think they were dying for a lie. They were deceived. They believed their leader. So, yes, absolutely, I agree with you. People can die for beliefs that are mistaken. But the disciples of Jesus were in a very different position, completely different. If the resurrection was a hoax, they would have been the ones inventing it. They would have known it was false. It creates a very different, psychological situation that they were in. And I said it before and I'll say it again. People might die for something that they think is true, just like in the cult, but people do not willingly suffer persecution, imprisonment, torture, exile, outcast from their social acceptance that they have had, and then eventually death for something they know is a lie, especially when there's nothing to gain. And that's precisely the situation that the disciples were in. According to the earliest historical sources, these men did not gain wealth. They did not gain political power, social prestige. No, they were beaten. They were imprisoned. They were outcast, and in many cases executed, or in most cases executed for proclaiming that Jesus had risen from the dead. No earthly rewards were awaiting them. Right? Now you contrast that with Jim Jones and other cult leaders throughout history. They gained tremendous power over their followers. Financial control, financial donations, public influence, sometimes sex. The resurrection proclamation, by contrast, it brought the disciples hardship and suffering. So the real question becomes this: if they stole the body and they knew the resurrection was false, why persist in preaching it under these threats of death and persecution? The best explanation is usually the simplest one. They genuinely believed that they had encountered the risen Christ. And that belief is exactly what the earliest historical evidence points us towards.